All right. I think we're live now. I think we're going. So let's get disclaimers out of the way real quick. Again, my name's Chris, and this is the weekly live broadcast. So pretty much every Thursday evening, we're here, 7 o'clock Central. And I just do this to answer questions, to interact with you guys, because, well, we don't get a chance to do it any other time. The only things you can ask me just about anything you want. I do my best to respond to all the comments or all the chats that come in during the live chat itself. And pretty much answer just about anything. The only thing I ask is keep it family friendly, be polite, be courteous with other people. Don't start cussing or any of those kinds of things, calling people names, being hateful. We'll have to kick you out. But other than that, everything's pretty much open. All right, let's get into it. McLeod at Family Farms here says, hey, didn't miss your live stream this time. Yeehaw says, LOL, hope you're having a great day today. My rabbit was due yesterday and still no babies as of today. I'm sitting here telling myself to chill. Yeah, sometimes it can take a little while. Goes on to say, let's see, I know she can take up to 31 days, but just getting back into rabbits has been a few years, so I'm antsy to get baby buns back in my hands. Yeah, I know exactly how that goes. Give her another couple of days. Sometimes I'll take up to 34 days. 35 days even. It can happen. So just don't give up on her just yet. But yeah, I know that's kind of tough, isn't it? And then, you also say you have 120 quail eggs going into lockdown tomorrow. Wow, that's a lot of eggs. So good luck with your hatch. I hope that works out well. Hey, Verna's here. Good evening to you. She says, I hope your day was a good day. Yeah, it was pretty good. Not bad at all. Good evening to James. And let's see who else we got here. 12 Gauge. It says, hey, Chris and all from North Central Arkansas. Hope everyone's doing well. Cold here tonight. I think tonight the low is about 28, I think. Yeah, tonight I think it's going to get down to it's going to get below freezing. I don't know what the temperature is. It's not that cold out right now. I think it's probably 55 degrees, 50 degrees, something like that. But it's going to get down below freezing, I know. All right, who else we got here? Miss Michael and Ode to Early Childhood, I think is what that says. Says, my doe Jane usually carries 38 or 33 days. Do you count from the day breeding or the day after? Boy, that's a good question. I always count from the day of breeding. That's day one. But yeah, you could do it either way, honestly, just 30-ish days. I always start checking to see if she's ready to build her nest a couple of days, beforehand, about 3-4 days before that. And I just did a video on that just last week. But yeah, it doesn't, you can count it either way. It's always a little bit tricky. Where are we at here? Sorry, getting through a couple of you guys are talking to each other, which is fine. Doesn't bother me a bit. Robin from Down Under. Good. Thanks for joining us all the way from over there. It's got to be morning time there, right? Early morning? I don't know. Let's see. Miss Michael. I think it's Michael, isn't it? Mikhail, maybe? Maybe I'm getting that wrong. It says today's 34 from breed date. Yeah. So yeah, going a little bit long there, but that's not that uncommon. Cruel Intentions says, hey, how you been? God bless you and yours, bro. Well, thank you very much. God bless you as well. And I've been doing very well. Thank you. Good to see you, Boris. Thanks for joining. And Joe says, hey, Chris, glad to be here. Hope you're well. I am doing well. Thank you. Hey, Ed's here. Ed got bait. Good to see you. And Waylon James Brown from Nacogdoches, Texas. I used to live in Nacogdoches. So good to see you. Thanks for coming back and joining us again. It's been a while. Grab a drink here. All right. Jesse says, good evening, everyone. Everybody make sure to hit the thumbs up. Well, thank you very much for that. Who else? Kinsey says, my hubby's processing our first rabbit tonight. We had watched all your videos. Thank you so much. We are absolutely welcome. And hopefully it goes well. I'm sure it will. It's not nearly as hard as, sometimes you make it out to be. Just get it done. So, and you just got to get past that initial, the first one's always the toughest. It's not fun. It's not pleasant, but it shouldn't be fun and pleasant. It is part of life, unfortunately. But I'm sure you'll do great. All right, Ed says, Chris, did you bag a deer yet? No, I did not. Boy, I got close, real close. I was sitting in the woods. I'd been sitting in my tree stand for a couple of times, and my tree stand sits on the edge of this field. So there's a field edge, and to my left, a section of trees right there, where it goes into the woods right there. And I've been seeing deer moving back through the woods back through there. So I thought, I'm going to sit in the woods. This was a Sunday morning. So I'm going to sit in the woods and try to monitor that trail that they've been walking along. The wind was blowing the right direction for that. So I sat in the woods there, and I had a little, I don't know, it was 8 o'clock in the morning or so. I had a little buck come through the woods. I could hear him coming, and I got all excited, ready. It was a little 4-point young buck, so I just let him go on by. And he walked within 15, 20 yards of me, and then walked off down through the woods. I was sitting up against this ravine, and he walked on the far side of that ravine. And then about 9 o'clock, I heard something coming through the woods the other direction, coming from where that buck had gone. Well, I'm sitting there in the woods, and it's to my right-hand side behind me. I look over my shoulder, and I see this nice, big 8-point buck, big 8-point. He's walking in through the woods right up through there, but I got to turn all the way around to get to him, and I can't do that without spooking him. So, he walks up within about 15, 20 yards of me, and he kind of looks over towards me like he thinks he sees something, but he's not real sure, and he's not too worried about it. And he turns and takes a couple steps, and he's got his head turned the other way. So I turned a little bit, and I was sitting on a chair, and that chair creaked a little whenever I turned. Kind of spooked him. He jumped and ran a little bit, and then he turned back around and kind of looked. And I sat there, and he turned his head back the other way, took a few steps. I got my rifle up. I could see him, but there was brush between me and him. And I could tell I was on the deer, but I couldn't tell where I was at on the deer. So I decided not to take the shot because I didn't want to wound a deer and then not find him. So I, gave him a few minutes, and he ended up, if he'd have stepped that way, I could have got a clear shot at him, but he stepped that way and walked off through the woods. Try again this weekend. We'll see how it goes, but that's my story. I tried to do some filming for you guys and try to film those hunts, but man, it's incredibly hard to do. It's hard to get, where I hunt, it's not like hunting shows where they're like, oh, there's a deer coming through the woods way over there, and they got all kinds of time to prepare for it. Like me, they're on you. You see a deer and it's there. It's not, you don't have time to turn the camera on and get it all situated. So I don't know if I'll ever get one film for you guys or not, but anyway, let's get on to other things. 12 Gauge says, just added the heat lamp to my quail pen. They've enjoyed a long break while molting. Now they got to get back to putting those eggs out. Yep. Yeah. You don't necessarily need a heat lamp for that. Just a light of some kind. Light itself is what gets them in the egg laying, not heat. But there's nothing wrong with putting a heat lamp if you want to. Just be real careful with that. Heat lamps can be kind of dangerous, especially long term. They've caught things on fire plenty of times. So just be careful with that. But anyway, Robert Hermsman, good to see you. And Kinsey says, from Canada, CA. Is that Canada, California? Is that right? Is that CA? Is that what the CA stands for? Or Canada? I don't know. Either way, I'm not sure. So Robert says, with 3 females, I have 25 babies. Wow, that's quite a few. Congratulations. Cruel Intention says, keep up the great streams, bro. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy them. Let's see. We got Flew the Coop Farms. Evening, Chris. Did you or are you working on getting a deer? Well, I just told that story, so I think you got the answer there. Jasmine, a fellow Missourian here. If I remember right, you're over by Crane, Missouri, I think. So good to see you. Thanks for joining. Robert says, when you have a female that has babies, what do you do with your automatic watering system? I don't do anything with it. I'm not sure what you mean. Like, are you worried about the babies? They'll figure out how to drink from that automatic watering system. So you don't have to have anything special for them necessarily. They'll watch the mother and they'll learn off the mother and learn to drink from it that way. That's the easiest way to actually train them to it, because you don't have to worry about teaching them how to use that. If you take rabbits that have never drank out of that automatic watering system with the nipples they got to bite on, you have to train them to drink out of that. But with the babies, they just figure it out by watching the mother. So I don't have to do anything with that, except for the fact that I'm usually breeding in the fall and the winter time. So a lot of times when I have baby rabbits in the winter, I've already taken down the watering system because it's freezing. And so I just use Crocs at that point, but they do fine with those too. All right. Scott says, hello, Chris, 5-month-old rabbit, wire cage facing east. What temp do you lower the tarp and cover? And do you leave down all winter? Thanks for your videos. No, I usually don't put the tarp down that much unless unless the wind's blowing directly into the cages, which my hutch sits on the north side, of my house, So our predominant wind is from the south and blows across this way. So my house kind of blocks most of that. They don't really get wind blowing on them directly very often. If it's blowing on them directly, then I'll lower the tarps down. Or if there's a storm coming, I lower the tarps down. A lot of times I keep them out just for my comfort because it gives me somewhere to get in there. I mean, it doesn't bother the rabbits much to be, opened up, but it whenever I go out to do chores and things, it gives me something to kind of block the wind from me, keep snow from falling on me, rain from falling, those kinds of things. But I don't have a certain temperature that I just say, oh, I got to lower the tarps. Sometimes I'll leave it out for weeks on end. Sometimes I won't. Usually if it's real cold, I just leave the tarp down because, if it's real cold, any bit of wind is much, much colder. And like I said, it's much more comfortable for me working underneath that than it is about giving the rabbits more comfort. But anyway, Jay Moore says, caught a break. Power was out and finally came back on. Have 4-week-old quail just put out and on a heat lamp since 20s and 30s at night. Want to acclimate them to colder weather till a bit longer. Yep, I get that. Yeah, for sure. Those young babies, 2 to 3 weeks or 4-week-old, but still, like you said, it's a good idea to acclimate them to that. It's a little cold out there to take them from, a nice warm brooder box and just slam them outside to 20-degree weather. Cruel Intention says Tennessee's going to be cold tonight too. Yeah, I imagine. I mean, it's that time of year, right? It's wintertime. I imagine lots of people are getting cold tonight. Except for our friend from down under, it's going into summertime for them. Backwards for us. Gary says, hello, Chris from North Carolina and to the rest of the quail world. Hello to you, Gary. Good to see you. Let's see. Laura Shell Farm, is that right? Says, hello from Connecticut. Having the rabbits in the past, I really liked your video this week on checking to see if the doe is ready. Nice job. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a tip. I've shared that before, but it's been a long time, so I figured why not share it again. Jasmine says, I think it's almost time to retire my 2 oldest does. Bred them about 34 days ago and no signs of kits coming. Buck is proven and fell out a few times, so I'm guessing the does are past their peak. Yeah, my doe is definitely past her peak. It's time to retire her. I got to look for some new rabbits. If you guys watched my video last week, you know that she never produced any babies. She did finally have one very large baby stillborn. So she's done. She's too old. She doesn't need to be bred anymore anyway. I'm going to try to find somebody that wants to take her, make a pet out of her for the last, couple of years of her life, make her as comfortable as she can be. Sorry, I got distracted there. Boris says, is it my connection or lagging? A couple of people, no lagging here. Must be your connection, Boris. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past mine. I seem to have those problems about every week, but it doesn't look like it's mine this time. But anyway, so Jasmine, I'm right there with you. Yeah, it's time for me to look for some new rabbits. By the way, I am on the search for Timuck rabbits. If anybody knows where they're at, can find them within like a couple hours of the Joplin area, drive-wise. I don't want to drive more than about 2.5 hours or so one direction. So that puts me at, like Kansas City, Tulsa, that's kind of that area, Bentonville, Fayetteville probably, towards Arkansas, or let's see, east. I don't know, Springfield area, a little past Springfield probably. I could go a little further than that, or even I guess between here and Kansas City or St. Louis, because we have to make it to trips to St. Louis every once in a while, and I might be able to stop on one of those trips and pick up some rabbits. If anybody knows, let me know. All right, 12 gauge says, yeah, I only use heat lamps during the cold nights. Other times it's just a regular light. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's the way to do it probably. Miguel Chan is here. Good to see you, Miguel. I'm doing very well, thank you. Hopefully you are too. Jasmine says, Chris, do you process your deer harvest on your own or use a processing facility? What's your preferred favorite cut for eating, and do you make sausage? Wow, there's a lot in there. No, I don't process my own deer because I don't have, I just don't have the facilities to do that easily. I don't have a walk-in cooler or anything like that to be able to hang a deer. I don't have, I guess I got enough cooler space. If I wanted to cut it up, I could store it in a cooler, but it's a lot of work for me. And I'm usually shooting a deer on the weekend. I got to go back to work Monday. I just take it to the processor, let the processor do it. They do a good job with it. So, I just let them do it. It's no big deal. Plus I always have them add beef fat to the hamburger itself. My favorite, preferred favorite cut for eating is definitely the back straps. The tenderloins are just, they're the best. A lot of the other stuff I just have cut into hamburger. I do keep several roasts, but honestly, the roasts are not, they're so lean that they tend to be a little bit on the tough side. So, I use the hamburger a lot more than I do the roast, but I do like the back straps, the tenderloins. They're pretty darn good. I don't make sausage. I have made sausage myself before, but I don't typically. I will have the processor make. Usually, they do a really good job with their summer sausage. So I'll get several rolls of summer sausage, snack sticks, which are kind of like Slim Jims. I'll get several packages of those made, maybe a pound or two of jerky. The back straps cut out whole, and then usually the rest is just hamburger at that point. Robert says, having trouble finding the small Crocs. Where did you get yours? I use rubber Crocs. They are so much better. Let me check something out here real quick. I thought I had them in my Amazon shop. Let me double check and make sure. Yep, they are in my Amazon shop. $8 for the large Crocs. So you can check out my Amazon shop, which is, what is it? Amazon.com/shop/slightly rednecked. Here, I'll put that down there. Just a word. It is an affiliate link. So if you click on that and go shop in there, I will make $1 or $2 from it. Maybe not $1 or $2, but I make a small amount. Doesn't cost you guys any more. It's the same price as if you were to just go there anyway and shop. But just letting you know, if that bothers you, you don't want me to make money off that, then it's fine. Go look for them on your own. You can check them out however you want to. All right. Whiskey Tango Farms is here. Says hello, Chris and everybody. A bit late. Was finishing up dinner. Well, you know the rules here. I don't keep attendance, so it is okay. I just appreciate you guys joining. I saw your live go. Was it 2 days ago you went live? Yesterday? Maybe it was yesterday, but I couldn't make it, unfortunately. I need to do a better job. Everybody comes to my live broadcast. I never make it to anybody else's. Just got too much going on right now, but hopefully soon I'll be able to free up some time and get back into it. All right. Susanna Fierro Brown. There we go. Says, hello. I recently got a pair of rabbits and they were used to being together, but I have separated them. I noticed the girl is losing a lot of fur. Should I be worried? I'm not sure if it's just stress. Boy, that's a good question. I mean, it could be stress, but when you say losing a lot of fur, I mean, they do tend to blow their coats a couple of times a year. Usually it's going into summer and sometimes going into winter as well. They'll shed a whole lot and then grow in their summer coat or their winter coat. So it's probably nothing to worry about as long as you're not seeing big bald spots on her or something like that. If you're just seeing a lot of hair all over the place, it's probably just a natural thing that's going on. It's just due to the time of year. But as long as she's eating and drinking fine and, eyes still seem bright and she's probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it too much. All right. Let's see. Lara Shell, I think it is. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It says, I used to have issues with ear mites every few months. What's the biggest cause? The biggest cause is having rabbits. It's just something you're going to deal with if you have rabbits. Ear mites are an incredibly common thing. I have problems with them fairly regularly as well. If you keep straw bedding and those kinds of things around, like in the rabbit's cage, that can make it a little bit worse because they tend to kind of nest in that straw bedding. It's hard to get rid of them in there. The other thing that can make it, kind of a reoccurring issue is probably what's happening is you're not getting rid of them in the first place. So you may be treating the rabbit. And if you don't know, ear mites are pretty easy to treat. Couple of drops of olive oil, any kind of food grade oil. I tend to use olive oil or mineral oil. You could use coconut oil. You could use any kind of cooking oil for the most part is going to be fine. Vegetable oil, any of that kind of stuff. Just a couple of drops in their ears. They're not going to like it. They're going to really really dislike it when you do it. But you could put a couple of drops in their ears until all the scabs disappear. Do that every single day. And then after that, do it again every other day or so for about a week or two afterwards to make sure that you've gotten rid of it. Because what happens is a lot of times you've gotten rid of all the scabs on, the visible ones that you can see, but deep down in the ear, the mites, they've still got eggs in there that have hatched out or whatever. So you may not have gotten rid of all of them if you didn't treat long enough. I have a bad habit of just treating them until the scabs kind of disappear and then I kind of forget about it. And then like 2 weeks later, I've got ear mite problems again. So that is the way to do that. Now you can treat them with like pesticides and things, but I mean, ivermectin would be one of them. There's a couple of them out there, but that's probably the most common one. I just personally prefer to just use oil because it's cheaper. I mean, if you can use something besides a pesticide, I think it's always best for the rabbit. But anyway, Amanda says, hey, Chris, went to prep the rabbit cages for our cold snap tonight. First time bred New Zealand doe took the hay from me and started to madly nest with it. 21 days today. Too early? No, not necessarily. Hang on a second. I got a text message. I got to make sure it's not important. Hang on just 1 second. Got to respond to this real quick. I can't talk and text at the same time. Okay. Where are we going? 21 days too early. Okay. Not necessarily. No, some rabbits build their nests a lot earlier than other rabbits. 21 days, I mean, that's a little early for sure, but it's not really that early. It's not, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Give her a nest box. Let her go ahead and build her nest. Who knows? Some rabbits have their babies a little early too, but so who knows? I'd just go ahead and give her the nest box and let her do it. And I know you said you're prepping your rabbits for the cold snap tonight, so that must mean you're you don't have to put hay and straw and things in their cages when it's cold. Rabbits do very well in the cold. One of the things I would caution you about, like stuffing a lot of hay and straw and things like that in their cage, is that it gets filthy pretty quick. You know, I mean, they just use it as like a litter box or any of those kinds of things. So, you know, you don't necessarily want to, I mean, it's just hard to keep clean. That's why I don't use any of that kind of stuff. And the rabbits don't necessarily need it. So it's not really something, don't feel guilty if you don't. All right. Sorry, got to respond to that one real quick. Where are we at here? Owen, good to see you. I'm doing well. Thank you. Hopefully you are too. Jasmine says, I also appreciate your video about the nest box readiness. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully that is, hopefully those videos are helpful for you guys. I always put those out with hopes that I'm helping somebody out. I've kind of talked about this before, is that I am kind of running into an issue now where I don't know what to do a video on from week to week. I always have a hard time coming up with the topic because I pretty much done everything that I can think of. So most of the stuff I'm doing it's just repeat topics. It's topics I've addressed before, but I figure it's difficult for me right now because I know that there are new people that have come to the channel that are watching videos that they may not have seen those older videos I did several years ago. So doing that topic all over again is probably good for them. But how do I pick which topic to do? It's tricky, but I'm working on it. All right. La Rochelle Farm says, venison liver from young deer is one of the best things you'll eat. Yeah, venison. I don't know that I've ever eaten venison liver, but I should keep it. I should keep it the next one and try it out. I do like calf liver quite a bit, beef liver, and rabbit liver is really good. I like rabbit liver quite a bit. So yeah, it seems like something I would like. All right, Jay Moore says slow cook roasts will be tender, or pressure can chunks tender too. Yeah, I do typically slow cook them, but they just don't tend to get all that tender to me. I've never tried actually pressure canning them, so that may be something to work on and to try. But yeah, I don't know. Slow cooking them, I've tried it and just I can't ever seem to get them real tender. But anyway, Verna says, Chris, the next time you want to make a venison roast, soak the meat in zesty Italian dressing or at least overnight before baking. Yeah, I don't really care for zesty Italian dressing, you know, as a marinade. It's just not one of my favorite things. So thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that. But I don't know. That doesn't sound that good to me. Anyway, Jupiter, the Argentine Tegu says, hope you and the missus are doing well, Chris. Just stop by to say good evening. Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Whiskey Tango Farm says, do you eat the heart of the deer at all? I always eat the heart and the tenderloins the day I shoot it. Not typically. I don't. I'm not a big fan of heart. I do like quail hearts. I think are pretty good. I like those. They're tiny, pretty small. I like those quite a bit. But like beef heart or I've never tried deer heart. I'm sure it's the same as beef heart. It's probably pretty similar. And it's not one of my favorite things. I mean, it's not terrible. It's just not that good to me. So no, I don't typically. I have never done that. Yusuf is here. Freezer, good to see you. Says hello everyone from Katernik's homestead in Lexington, Massachusetts. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Let's see. Live off the grid. Hello, Chris. My doe won't let our buck mate her. If we hold our head, the buck won't get a fall off. What else can I do? Oh, that's always a tough one. That's one that comes up all the time. Let me grab a drink here. Let's go through it. Okay. It's pretty common for does to be a little bit stingy or difficult, I guess, to get them to start breeding. Especially if it's a newer doe, a younger doe, a lot of times they'll be real stubborn. So the biggest things you can do, well, there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing is just try and try and try and try. A lot of times persistence will pay off with that. So it just takes some time for her to get in the mood. Put her in with the buck, give her 15 minutes. If she doesn't let him mount and fall off, or it doesn't lift for him at that point, take her out, put her back in her cage, try again that evening. Try again the next morning. Try again the next evening. Try again the next morning. Try again the next evening. Usually after about 5 or 6 times, she'll lift for him, and that works. There are some other things that you can try. You can try taking the buck out of his cage, putting him in a spare cage, putting her in his cage, leaving her there for a day or two, and then moving her to the cage that you've got your buck in. Sometimes just getting that scent of the buck and just getting used to that will kind of put her in the mood. Other things that you can try doing is adding some light. So get the hours, 14 hours of daylight, get it up to 14 hours. And sometimes that can help as well. Most animals are somewhat light sensitive. So, like the quail need 14 hours a day to lay eggs. Sometimes the rabbits need 14 hours a day to get in the breeding mood. One thing, there's a common trick that you can use to get a doe ready to breed. I don't know why this works. It makes no sense to me, but so many people swear by it. Take the doe, put her in a pet carrier, put her in your car, drive her around the block a couple of times, and then put her in with the buck. And people swear that works. I don't know why it would, but you can try those kinds of things and see how that does for her. Hopefully you get her to lift pretty soon. I know how difficult it is when you've got a doe that does not want to lift. It's so frustrating, but usually they'll get over that after they've been bred a couple of times. All right. Let's see. We got a couple of people talking to each other. Jennifer. Hello, all from Tennessee. My newest baby quail go outside next week. I hate cleaning brooder boxes. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Make sure they're well acclimated to the cold before you send them out. You don't want to lose them that way, but I don't know how old they are either, so they may already be fine. Cruel Intention says y'all have a good night and upcoming weekend and stay safe. Thank you. You too. Let's see. While we're waiting, Homestead, good evening from Ohio. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Robert says, if you don't find any rabbits between now and March, I'm coming to Okie Homestead Conference. I wouldn't mind giving you one or two. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let me clarify. There are rabbits around here that I can get, but I'm really kind of holding out. I'm looking for some Tamuk rabbits. I'd really like to get 2 unrelated bucks, 2 unrelated does that I can breed and then have, so I could use their offspring as breeders, maybe sell a few of them here and there, help pay for my food costs. And they're just hard to find around here. So I think I'd like to be able to provide that for people around here that are maybe looking for them. And I don't know if that you may have those already, but I appreciate that. If you are in March, the Okie Homestead Conference, I got to look that up and see when that is. Let me take a look here real quick. I don't know if I'll make it to that or not, but we'll see. Let's see. Is that the Homesteaders of America conference? Yep, that's the one that's put on, isn't it? By I don't think that's it. The Okie Homestead Expo, right? By Keeping It Dutch, I think. Yeah, I've heard of that. I know, familiar with it. I don't know if I'll make it to that or not. We'll see. But yeah, remind me again as we get closer to that. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, Verna's got a good suggestion for Jennifer. Usually I skip these when you guys are talking to each other, but I caught this one. Says, talking about not liking cleaning brooder boxes. I agree. Says, after they're a week old, you can put them on 1/2-inch hardware cloth with a tray under it. It makes it much easier to clean. That is a good suggestion. Thank you. All right, Laura Shaw Farm says, Yusuf, I got those from Amazon. They are worth it. I think I showed the name in the video. What? Did I miss something? What did I miss? Oh, there, you were talking to each other. Oh, asking about some specific scissors. Okay, gotcha. Whiskey Tango Farm says, what would cause a doe to lose all the fur on her tail? We have a silver fox doe that had a leg injury but healed up pretty well, but her tail fur is gone and she won't live for the buck. Yeah, that sounds like a problem for sure. I don't know that I've ever run into that. My initial thought is fur mites, but you think it would be affecting more than just her tail? Let me make a note, see what I can figure out here. See if there's something real quick. Yeah, okay. I just did a quick Google search for you to see if there was anything, and it pops up with parasitic infection like lice, fleas, mites, or fungus. Fungus, I didn't think about that, but that could be something like that too. I think what I would do is probably try, it's probably not fungus, but it might be. So what I would try is start off with treating it like it was mites, fleas, something like that that's causing it. So maybe this would be a case where you may want to treat her with something like ivermectin or another kind of pesticide and see if that takes care of it. If it doesn't, then start looking into antifungal treatments. I guess you might be able to do both of them at the same time. I don't know. But that's what I would probably start with. I don't think I've ever had that issue, but, that's kind of my best guess. Where are we at here? Jennifer says, how are your baby quail from the video that posted a week or so ago? They're doing pretty well. I've lost a few of them. I put them out and we had a cold snap come through and they weren't quite ready. So I made it it was my mistake. I knew better. So I lost a few of them, but the rest of them were all doing really, really well. While we're waiting, Homestead says, we had 2 litters of silver fox rabbits. Last week, lost a whole litter on day 3. Mom didn't pull enough fur. Lost second litter today. Mom pulled fur. I had bedding in both boxes, and they were uncovered. Really? Boy, I'm sorry to hear that. That is crazy. What? I'm sorry, I got distracted by another comment. No, that's crazy. I never have issues with losing litters in the fall or the wintertime or anything like that. But if they were uncovered, that's definitely probably what the issue was. It's just I'm surprised you lost 2 litters. I'm sorry to hear that. That could be a sign of poor mothering. So if it's like a continuing issue, you may just have some rabbits that aren't cut out to be good mothers. It's hard to say. All right, let's see. Boris says, I just realized I'm in the middle of nothing between Laramie and Cheyenne. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what that was a response to. I'm looking back to see if I can put it together, but I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. While we're waiting, says, we're going to have to get a bunny barn before I breed in cold weather again. I understand if you've had that issue. I don't know what your rabbitry setup's like. You've seen mine. I breed all winter long. I have no problems at all, but who knows? Verna says, Chris, how about a video tour of everything? Yeah, well, there's not much there. I mean, there's my quail and my rabbits. So, there's not much to tour, but who knows? Maybe I'll do that at some point if it's something everybody wants to see. Amanda says, thanks. I did go ahead and give her a nesting box. Yes, I don't use hay for insulation. I just pulled the tarps down and gave hay for an evening snack. Okay, that makes sense. That's good practice. Yusuf says, at what age do you retire your main flock? I don't really keep track. I usually change them out probably once every 1.5 to 2 years, somewhere right around in there. But I don't keep real close track on that. So it's just kind of I just every once in a while I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and process all these and just keep the next batch that I've hatched out. They'll become my next breeders. But it's about once every 1.5 or so is when I do that. Whiskey Tango Farm says, bought a bred doe about a week ago, and I just finished up her new cage last night. Needed another cage with Baby wire. Yep, that's always the trick, isn't it? Let's see. Jupiter says, I tried saving deer liver last year to feed to my Tego. He was not interested at all. Yeah, I can imagine. I think Tegus are generally, they're predators. They want to hunt the food. They want to chase it down. They want to, can't imagine. Maybe not. Who knows? I guess you could get him eat regular meat, but I don't know. Verna says, if you like salsa, then use it as a marinade. Well, that's not a bad idea. I could try that too. Let's see. G. Michael says, or is it Michael or Michelle? No, it's Michael probably. Junior? Probably. Anyway, I always have a hard time with, for some reason, telling the difference between Michael and Michelle. How about a video pro-con on the difference of breeds of rabbits raised for meat? Yeah, I could probably put something together like that. Let me see if I don't have a pen in here, do I? Yes, I do. Right here. Do I have something to write on that's not important? That looks like just a piece of paper. Is it? It's a blank piece of paper. I'll make a note of that and see what I can do. I always want to have to make sure because sometimes I write on the back something I'm like, oh, that was important. Pro/con of different breeds of meat rabbit. There we go. Thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that. Always looking for good suggestions on videos. Whiskey Tango Farm says, let's see, talking to somebody else. I'll skip that one. Lorraine Damiano, I think it is, says, our babies' bellies are very round, so how can I tell if the mom is feeding them? If their bellies are very round and when you go to check on them, they're all squiggly and squirming around, they're being fed. You probably don't need to worry about it. Unless they starting to look shrivelly and are being lethargic, not moving around much, there's probably nothing to worry about at all. You probably won't ever see the mother feed them, but if they're still alive after a couple of days, she's feeding them. So I don't know if there's another way to really tell easily. I just wouldn't worry about it. Jennifer says, I have a heat lamp in the hutch. Is that a response to something or just saying you have a heat lamp in your quail hutch? I think it is. So yeah, again, just be very careful with that. Don't burn anything down. That's all. But there's not, if you want to put heat in there, you can. If your birds are all feathered out and they're adult birds, then you don't need to worry about it really. As long as they have a windbreak, they can get out of the wind. They don't need the heat lamp. But if you want to put it in there, it's fine. Just be safe. All right, Yusuf says, slightly rednecked. I'm very nervous that I'll mess up the first dispatch. Any good tips? Is there a way I can stun it before killing it? There is ways. I know that sorry, I'm reading ahead a little bit and see if somebody else got this for you. There are ways. I don't know the specifics of a halal method of processing birds, so I don't know, or any animal for that method. So I don't know what you're allowed to do and not do. One of the things that I do whenever I process my birds is I take a screwdriver and I turn it around so the handle end is out here, and I smack them on the back of the head, and that kind of knocks them out. It stuns them, so it's a little bit easier to deal with at that point. So yeah, I get being very nervous about it. It's one of those things that you may mess it up the first time, but you're going to learn from that mistake if you do it, and there's no way to. You're going to have to go through that. I doubt you're going to mess it up. You're probably going to do just fine. Just don't work yourself too much. Don't work yourself up over it too much. It's one of those things you're just going to have to do it, and just commit to it and do it. But anyway, hopefully, I know that's not real helpful, but I can understand why you're nervous about it. It's just again, it's just one of those things you're just going to have to do. I don't have any other great tips other than that. If you're allowed to stun them that way, then that works pretty well. It's worth doing. Amanda says, I would 100% buy a rabbit from you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then Yusuf says, my neighbor says I can butcher her male quails. She said she don't need them. Yeah, that's probably a good way to get your practice in, but sorry, I got distracted. It's probably a good way to get practice in is go ahead and start on doing a couple of them, but it's going to be a little tricky the first one you do, but you're going to get it down pretty quick. I don't know. I don't know if there's any I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit and see what I can figure out. I know that because your religion, you need to follow halal method. I just don't know all the specifics of that, what it requires. So I don't know that I can give you great advice on that. MC Production says, Chris, I got your luck this year. My dough is due Saturday, so hope my luck is changing. Yeah, I've had my luck pretty much all my life. So yeah, it will. It'll get better. Just hang in there. Verna says, Chris knocks him in the head with the back of a screwdriver. Yep, you paid attention. You knew that. Amy says, do you sell quail eggs? I mean, I sell some occasionally, but not really. I'm not set up to do mass production on quail eggs. Whiskey Tango Farms, who's here, they sell quail eggs, and My Shire Farm sells quail eggs. So those are two good suppliers that you can get quail eggs sent to you from. I'm just not set up to be able to do it. Let's see where we at here. Katrina says, hi from Gilroy. I'll have to rewatch the beginning. Oh, that's okay. It's probably not really all that exciting, but thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Jay Moore says, I use wee pads in a brooder box. Much easier to clean, soaks up the water they make a mess of. Yeah, I guess if they're spilling water, that's probably a good way to keep it cleaned up for sure. Verna says, freezer, I don't do that. It might be good for you, but not for me. Talking about stunning the quail with the screwdriver, knocking them on the head. Let's see. Harlan says, I have jumbo whites that are over 4 weeks old. Can they go outside? Yeah, they probably can. If they're fully feathered out, jumbo whites, they probably are at 4 weeks old. Just checking the time, make sure we're not out of time. The thing to make sure is that I'm sorry, I got distracted. The thing to make sure of at this point is that they're fully acclimated to the cold. You don't want to take them from a 90-degree brooder box out to a 20-degree weather. You want to give them some time. So if you have a transition zone you can move them into for a couple of days or maybe a week before you move them out to the outside hutches, like maybe an unheated garage that stays just a little warmer than it does outside, something like that. That would be the way to do it. Or if you have a warm stretch coming on where it's not going to get down super cold, then yeah, they're probably fine to go ahead and go outside at this point. All right, Verna says, freezer, I had a hedge injury that changed my life. I can't do that to another living thing. Yeah, I completely understand that. And but, here's the thing is you're getting ready to process that bird anyway. So I do think, and I'm not telling you should do it this way, but sorry, distracted by your next comment. Make sure it wasn't something I was missing. I'm not telling you should absolutely do it that way, but here, I mean, I feel that it's much more humane to stun that bird before I dispatch it than it is to just dispatch it. Like Yusef says, he's looking for a way to stun it before he dispatches it. Now I can get it. I don't want to knock the quail on the head and then, put it back in the cage and let it, try to recover from that. No, for sure not. That's horrible. But right before dispatching, I think it's probably it's a good way to stun them. But again, that's just my opinion. Do it however works for you. Verna says, I don't even know how to pronounce all this. My growl fees started giving me eggs at just 5.5 to 6 weeks. That is early. Yeah, for sure. While we're waiting, Homestead says the rabbits are inside a privacy fence with a roof. They are in hanging cages. I did put feed bags all around the second doe to give her more protection. Just too cold. Yeah. If they're just in hanging cages that are open to the weather, yeah, you need to get something around them, block the wind from them. Feed bags are probably a good option for that. I've had tarps on my rabbit shed forever, and they've held up really, really well. But if you don't have a frame, the ones that are on the sides, I mean, that's what I use for the side walls on my rabbit shed is just tarps. Those have lasted forever. But the ones that I pull down in the front, whenever I stake them out in the front, they get whipped around in the wind and stuff like that. I got to replace them every year or two, a couple of years. But anyway, those are some thoughts for you as well. You can build a simple frame to tarp in and give them some protection that way too. Lara Shell Farm says to Yusef, it will be tough to find a better way to dispatch quail than with the shears. Says I'm going to do it with a knife. Beth Reed already explained to me how to do it. There you go. Verna says, let's see. All right, there's a little bit going back and forth there. I'll let you guys talk it out. It's no problem for me. Lorraine says, is it normal for rabbits to have diarrhea after giving birth? No, I wouldn't say that's normal. Now, make sure what you're looking at is diarrhea, not cecotropes, I think is what they're called. I always forget the name. But rabbits do produce it can look kind of like diarrhea, but it's actually, and how do I say this without grossing everybody else? They eat it is what they do. And they feed it to their babies too. And it's actually a very important part of their diet. So it may not be diarrhea, what you're seeing. It may be cecotropes, which I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, it's kind of spelled like it sounds. Cecotropes. You can kind of look that up, see what it looks like, and that may be it. If it is actually diarrhea that the rabbit has, no, that's not normal. They shouldn't. Probably at that point, what you should do if they're having diarrhea for a constant diarrhea, you need to get that fixed, because that can be really dangerous for rabbits. They can go downhill very quickly. So what you would want to do at that point is probably switch them to a hay-only diet until they recover. Let's see. Jay Moore says sharp scissors over in an instant, no suffering. Yeah, I get that too, Jay Moore. Again, Yusuf has some very specific ways he has to process based on his religion. So, when he's asking these questions, it may seem simple to us on how to process one, but we're not held to those same, not all of us anyway, are held to those same kinds of restrictions. So that's kind of where he's coming from with that. And, maybe, I don't know that that's correct. Halal method is what he has to use, which I'm somewhat familiar with, but I'm going to type that out. Involves, the halal slaughter involves one pass of a blade across the throat of an animal, severing the carotid artery, and the animal loses consciousness very quickly, yet the heart helps rid the body of blood. The animal must be allowed to bleed completely out. So it is a little bit different. And I don't know, it's one pass of the blade. I don't know how specific that is, if you could use scissors to cut their head off, or if you actually have to sever the artery and, wait for it to bleed out. That I don't know, honestly. So that's kind of where the difficulty comes in answering the questions, I guess. Blessed with Pets says, what do you do for a mini Rex rabbit with sore hocks and a buck that won't breed? Well, what I would do with a mini Rex rabbit with sore hocks is get rid of her and get a new rabbit. I would not breed her because I believe that sore hocks is primarily a genetic disorder, and you don't want to pass those genes on. Now, if you do want to treat the sore hocks, you can treat them with Preparation H. Give her, a good solid resting mat to kind of get off, make sure she's not on the wire all the time. Give her something to get off the wire on. But it is a pretty common issue with some of those smaller mini Rexes, some of those pet breeds that have a little bit thinner fur. It's primarily a genetic disorder. So I believe that anyway. Most of the time, not always. It could be caused by other things, but I think rabbits tend to be genetically predispositioned to that, and I wouldn't breed one that has those issues. That's just my personal opinion. A buck that won't breed, usually that's going to be because the buck's overweight. If he's not an older buck, weight is probably the number one reason why bucks won't breed. So you may have to put him on a little bit of a diet, get him to lose a little bit of weight. You could try, again, adding light, getting the daylight up to 14 hours a day to see if that helps get him in the mood a little bit more. But it's rare for a buck to not be interested in breeding. It's pretty common for does, but not for bucks. They're usually pretty interested unless they're, emotionally scarred. And that sounds funny, but, if you put them in, like if somebody took the buck and put it in a cage with a doe instead of taking the doe to the buck, and the doe got aggressive with him because he's in her territory and beat him up, that could emotionally scar him to the extent where he may be a little bit leery of trying to breed again at that point. But, other than that, it's usually weight. That's probably the biggest thing. All right. Colorado Katernik says to Jupiter, I sell customer balut quail eggs for his tegu. He says he loves them. Oh, that makes sense. I'm sure he would. All right, a couple people talking to each other. I'll skip those. Verna says, Chris, I use the bloodless call method, then cut the head off. When I tried your method, I didn't hit it hard enough to knock it out. Yeah, you got to knock it out. I mean, you got to hit it. That's for sure. I agree. The bloodless call method. So that's like you break their neck, basically, right? That would make sense. Yusuf says, I'm going to do an internet search on how to stun it. That's probably a good idea. Let's see. Yeah, you're probably going to find, and I would specifically put that, like look up halal method, how, stunning an animal before processing. That may be, because I don't know if you're going to, who knows? Good luck. I hope you find the information you're looking for. I'm sorry I can't answer that question better for you. Chris says, finally managed to catch your weekly. Wanted to say thanks for the channel. I've learned a lot from you. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. And thanks for joining the live broadcast. Let's see. Yusuf says, question, do you have any rabbits as pets? I don't. No, all of my rabbits are just meat rabbits. That's all. Hello to you, Claire. Good to see you. Jay Moore says, all the videos I've seen, Yusuf do like I do. Oh, wait. All the videos I see, Yusuf do like I do. Never seen stunning, but one guy pulled heads off hard the first time. Yeah, that would be difficult for sure. James Dahlheim says, here's halal method for birds. The Islamic form of slaughtering animals or poultry, dabiha, I don't know what that means, involves killing through a cut to the jugular vein, carotid artery, and windpipe. Yeah, I knew that actually. I just don't know all the specifics to it. G. Michael Jr. says, do you make your own feed mix for rabbits? No, I don't. I figure that the feed companies probably know better than I do how to do that, so I just let them do it. Yusuf says, could you imagine how many internet searches I made? I couldn't find any videos on halal slaughter, but I think I pretty much know what I'm doing. Thank you. If I do process some, I'll update you. Yeah, absolutely do update us. That seems like, I know you were thinking about starting a YouTube channel anyway. So it seems like you've got a niche. You can't find the information you're looking for. That probably means somebody else is looking for it and can't find it either. So that's probably a good opportunity for you to go ahead and process, do some videos on those topics. And you've got a whole nother angle to be able to go at it. So I think that was probably a good idea to do. Mel says, where can I find a full-blood California rabbit in Northwest Arkansas and Southern Missouri? Boy, that's a good question. Check Craigslist. That's the best place I usually find my rabbits. Other than that, just look for, like just do a Google search for, California rabbits in Arkansas or, Missouri or whatever. And you'll come across like a breeders list. Usually there's going to be a site like American Rabbit Breeders Association, something. There's going to be some kind of site there that has a list of breeders. And you just go through that list and contact them and see what you can find out. A lot of times those lists are old, so a lot of times when you reach out to those people, they're no longer breeding rabbits, or who knows. But you can find that's one way that you can usually find rabbits. Larishell Farm. Oh, excuse me. Oh, that came over me fast. Sorry, I don't mean to yawn while I'm talking to you guys. Mel says, I already read that one. Larishell Farm says, Chris, here's an idea for your next video. Halal culling method for quail and rabbits. Yeah, who knows? I might do something like that, but I don't know. Let me mark it down here. Let's see. I'll write that note down. I'll see what I can research on that a little bit, but it's not something I do, so I don't know if I could put that. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I can. Whiskey Tango Farm says, I might have missed this, but are you doing a live next week? Oh, no, I haven't talked about that. Good point. I probably should bring that up. No, next week's Thanksgiving. Not going to do a live on Thanksgiving. I'm going to be having dinner with my family. Going to my sister's house, so I won't even be home on that day. I mean, it's possible I'll get home early and be like, let's go ahead and do a live, but I doubt it. Probably not. Mass Grower says, how well do quail handle the colder weather I'm building a 4-stack cage and getting quail, but I live in the Northeast, so I want to make sure that they're well off. They do incredibly well in cold weather, as long as you can give them a wind block, give them something to get out of the wind. I gotta remember something here in a minute. Sorry. Make sure that they're blocked from the wind, and they're going to be fine. Now you're building, you said, a 4-stack quail cage, I think you said. Yeah, so that means it's going to be like quail cages stacked. What I would probably do is build some kind of small shed. It doesn't need to be a whole lot, just something that you can make sure that they're blocked from the wind. And since you're building stacking cages, you're not going to have like my hutches where part of it's dedicated to a wind block. You're going to have just open wire cages probably. So I think I would build a frame, maybe just a simple frame. And like I said, tarps or whatever you could use to kind of wrap it with, and that would keep the wind off of them, provide like a little shed. That's kind of the way I would do it. But they do fine in the cold. The cold's fine as long as they can get out of the wind. That's a good idea. Laura Shaw Farm says, Yusuf, I think I would want a razor knife. This way it's super sharp. That's a good idea. They make knives with replaceable blades, replaceable razor blades. And one thing I would suggest, Yusuf, is whenever you are getting ready to do that, really find something to practice on that's not, stuffed animals, that kind of thing. Make sure it takes a little bit more. You need a really sharp knife, and it's a little bit more force than you would think to cut through something with a single slice. You don't want to have an animal that you're trying to dispatch and you're having to saw on it. That's incredibly cruel, and it'll be traumatic for you too. You want to be able to do that in one slice. The other thing I would suggest is, really practice cutting away from yourself, not towards yourself. You don't want to get all excited in the process and end up dragging it across your arm or across your chest, something like that. So get a practice where you can hold, try it with a stuffed animal at first, and where you can pretty comfortably cut with one slice, about halfway through it, and try to get something that's roughly the same size as a quail. Stuffed animal is probably a good practice tool because you need a fairly sharp knife to be able to cut through all that stuff pretty quickly, and it's going to be very similar when you're trying to deal with a animal that you're trying to dispatch as well. There's a good suggestion too. Jay Moore says a chicken video may help. I wonder, are there chicken videos for that? I don't know. Lol. Chicken slaughter. Well, you know what? The first one, Islamic method of slaughtering chicken to make it halal. Yeah, just do a search for that. Look up the chicken method there, Yusuf, and see if that will help you out. That's a good suggestion. Colorado Katernik says, watched your winter video today. Then, man, I hate frozen water. Did you have to eat a ton of ice cream for winter? For winter water. Because I used a water bucket, I think is what you're talking about. The ice cream bucket that I used. No, I didn't. I mean, heck, I probably ate all that ice cream, but that may have been a container I got from work. A lot of times whenever, we have like something that goes on at work, they'll buy those great big tubs of ice cream, and then I'll just tell them to keep the tubs for me, and I'll take them home and use them for something. Harlan says, how do you know when you're overfeeding your quail? You won't overfeed your quail. Don't worry about that. Just make sure they have food. And do they eat and eat and eat? Yeah, they do eat and eat and eat and eat. That's for sure. Whiskey Tango Farms answered that already. Says, yeah, you can't overfeed the quail. They need feed and water all the times. I agree. Yeah, if you let them run out of feed, it's like the end of the world. They'll start going after each other. So, yeah, you need to just keep them fed all the time. They're not going to overeat. You don't need to worry about it. How are we doing on time? Oh, my gosh, we're almost out of time, like 2 minutes. Yusuf says, question, do you have any chickens? I don't right now. We usually do a run of chickens in the spring. They're just meat chickens. So we raise them up and then we process them and put them in the freezer. And that's, usually we get those fairly early in the spring, and they're only here for 2 months, and then they're in the freezer. Harlan says, okay. Harlan says, example, I would put a whole feeder feeder container to the brim, and it would be gone, and they would be and they would charge the cage as if they were starving. Yeah, a couple of things I can say about that. Make sure if you're not using them already, use a no-spill feeder or no-waste feeder. It's pretty simple to put together. If you've seen my feeders, that's what I use. I just get any kind of Tupperware style container, not Tupperware because that's expensive to use for this, but you can get Glad or whatever, Rubbermaid. It doesn't matter. Any kind of Tupperware style container with a lid on it, cut a hole in the side of it about, that high up, and then fill the feeder up to the rim of that hole. If you have an open feeder, they're going to get in there and scratch and kick, and they're going to waste more than they're going to eat. So that may be why your feeders are running out pretty quick. Anyway. But yeah, if they run out of food, it's like the end of the world for them. They just, they go crazy. Lorraine says, our rabbit used her small hidey house for her nesting box, and there isn't much of a lip on it. Can I move the kits to a different nesting box with a lip, or will mom not go in to feed them? She'll probably go in to feed them. You can usually move them around. It's fine. You probably won't have any issues with it. I don't know that you actually need a lip on it, though. If she's got her nest in there and she's already had her babies in there, it may be fine. My concern would be is if it's, just the only thing a lip does is a lot of times it will keep the baby from, like what happens is when the rabbit goes jumping out of the cage, if there's a baby attached to her nursing, it will kind of knock them off of her so they don't get drug out into the cage. I don't know if that's a huge issue or not. So yeah, you could probably move them. I probably would now that I think about it, just to be sure. Masquerado says the 4-stack cage will be next to my shed, and I'm going to put plywood on the side, and was thinking about hanging plastic in front of it. Yeah, if you can get them out of the wind, they're gonna be fine. Ed Got Bait says if they don't have water and feed 24/7, they get cannibalistic. Yeah, well, water not so much. As long as they can get water a couple of times a day, they're fine. But yeah, they got to have food all the time. So, oh my gosh, we got a lot of questions still here, and I don't have any time left. We're about done. All right, I'm going to have to end it right here, guys. We're already a couple of minutes past. So if I didn't get to your comments or your questions or whatever, I apologize for that. Hopefully you guys enjoy this time as much as I do. I really do like hanging out and being able to chat with you guys. Need to get fancy like Whiskey Tango Farms does and get that stream up where you can actually get in here and like we can see you and we hear you. That would be cool. But I haven't done that yet. Anyway, thank you guys all for joining me this week for the live broadcast. Next week, probably no live. Oh, one other thing. If you live in North America, United States anyway, I don't know if it's everywhere in the world, but in the United States anyway, in my part of the world, there is a lunar eclipse tonight. It will be the longest lunar eclipse in our lifetime. The longest one that has, the eclipse the moon will stay eclipsed for several hours, which is like the longest one in over 600 years. So it's pretty cool. But you got to get up at like 3 a.m. to see it or something. So who knows? Maybe I'll see it. Maybe I won't. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Hopefully you guys all have a great Thanksgiving next week. Those of you that celebrate it. And those of you that don't, hopefully you have a great week next week. God bless each and every one of you. Hopefully we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. I will try to get videos out next week. Just won't be on the live. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. As always, God bless.